The US Open is gearing up to be a fantastic tournament. We've already had some surprise exits and some superb performances from the usual suspects. All that said and done, we're only done with 3 days of action at Flushing Meadows, and there's a lot more to come. Let's review the top half of the draw, which includes the defending champion, Daniil Medvedev, and the Australian bad boy, Nick Kyrgios. First up, Medvedev's US Open adventure. Daniil Medvedev and Rafael Nadal must have been keeping a close eye on the Novak Djokovic proceedings, and were definitely relieved when it was confirmed that he will not be taking part in the US Open draw. Things didn't get necessarily easy for the world number one Medvedev, though, and he was handed quite a tough draw in the process, but over the course of the first few days, things have improved for the Russian, and he'll be hoping for a bit more. After playing against Stefan Kozlov to start his US Open campaign, Medvedev realized that it wouldn't be easy. You really don't want to be facing an American in the US Open for your first match, and it gets a little tougher when you factor in that Medvedev is from Russia. That didn't stop him from delivering a clinical performance, and he wrapped up the first obstacle in 3 sets, dropping only 6 games. His service game wasn't as good as he would have hoped, but converting 8 break points was seriously impressive. In the second round, he was faced with the task of taking on Arthur Rinderknecht of France, the world number 58. Medvedev started well, but the Frenchman truly held on in the second set and would regret not taking his opportunity to break. The world number 1 recovered from a tough second set and was on top of his game to win the match in 3 once again. Now, Medvedev hasn't dropped a set, and the route to the final has just become a little bit easier. Next up, the draw improves for Daniil. The projected draw at Flushing Meadows for Medvedev was a tough one. He was set to face Nicolas Basilashvili or the up-and-coming American superstar Ben Shelton in the third round, with Nick Kyrgios waiting in the fourth. That's not the kind of start you'd want to see 2-seeded players in the first 4 games potentially. If that wasn't hard enough, Medvedev could face the likes of Dominic Thiem, Pablo Carreño Busta, Alex de Minaur, or even Felix Auger-Aliassime in the quarters, before taking on Stefanos Tsitsipas in the semis. And if he was to make it to that point, however his luck would have it, his draw got a bit easier with Ben Shelton and Basilashvili both got knocked out, and he's set to face another unseeded player in Wu Yibing in the third round. That signals an easier start than he would initially have feared, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything's just fine now. Kyrgios looks in blistering form and will take on American JJ Wolf in the third round. We've got no doubts that Medvedev's focused on his third round matchup, but he'll be hoping for an upset on other side too. In fact, his fourth round game against Kyrgios will have a lot riding on it because Felix Auger-Aliassime has been knocked out in the second round, making the route to the quarters much easier. Not to mention the biggest upset of the tournament, Tsitsipas lost, meaning that he won't be waiting in the semis for whoever makes it from there. On the other hand, Kyrgios negotiated through a nightmare. Disclaimer: Kyrgios is being a little dramatic when he says nightmare. We know he's best friends with Thanasi Kokkinakis, and being drawn against your best friend in the first round of a slam isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's hardly a nightmare when you're the superior player. But either way, Nick got through that nightmare in 3 sets and will now take the field together with Kokkinakis for their opening doubles match. Kokkinakis started that match slowly, and Kyrgios, even though he was feeling a little awful about the situation, went all out and soon was 2 sets up without even giving his Aussie bestie a single breakpoint opportunity. Quite rude if you ask us. Kokkinakis, though, came back strongly in the third and refused to just bend over for Nick. He took him the distance with a tiebreaker, but Kyrgios found the corners at the right time and prevailed. After that win, Kyrgios was set to face Frenchman Benjamin Bonzi, and it was much more close affair. Bonzi took the man down under to a tiebreaker in the first set before losing and couldn't match the level from Nick in the second. Then Kyrgios experienced his first lapse in concentration, which led to Bonzi winning the third before Nick got back to his best to wrap up the match. Now, Kyrgios will take on the local favorite JJ Wolf, who's had a brilliant start to his US Open campaign, taking out 16-seeded Roberto Bautista and Alejandro Tabilo. But if Kyrgios can get past Wolf, he'll set up a blockbuster match against Medvedev. Okay, what to expect from a potential Medvedev-Kyrgios clash? If both Kyrgios and Medvedev win their third round matches, which they're expected to, they'll set up their 5th meeting with each other, and so far the Australian leads the head-to-head with a 3-1 lead. Their most recent meeting came in the Canadian Open, where Nick was ruthless and came back strongly after losing the first set in a tiebreaker. But that's not the only meeting between the two this year, with the first one coming in the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open. In fact, that's the only Grand Slam meeting between the two heavyweights, and Medvedev produced an exceptional performance in Melbourne, defeating Kyrgios in 4. The Aussie will be looking for revenge against Medvedev, and both the players understand the importance of getting through the 4th round, as the draw tends to get relatively easier after that clash. We expect a terrific match though. Kyrgios is experiencing a superb 2022, and Medvedev's defending champion at the US Open. Both players have a lot to play for, and their playing styles contrast a lot when compared. We're not giving out betting advice, but we think Kyrgios has a serious chance of defeating Daniil if he can stay focused throughout the 5 sets. Now, in other news, starting with Serena winning big. She couldn't do it, could she? Well, we're not ones to write off Serena, ever, and we won't do that this time either. Plus, how can you even think about ruling her out when she's just become the oldest player to defeat a top 3 ranked player in the WTA? Yeah, she wasn't even the favorite going into her match against Annette Kontaveit, but she produced a phenomenal performance rolling back the years to defeat Kontaveit and move into the 3rd round of the US Open. Every match the American superstar plays is cheered on by a huge crowd as they know that it could be easily her last. The one in the 2nd round definitely seemed like that until Serena got a little light as she went for a washroom break and returned to knock Kontaveit out. Now, she's got Australian Ayla Tomljanovic waiting in the 3rd round, and we've got no doubt that she'll make it as difficult as possible for her. But you don't have to wait long before seeing Serena in action as she takes the field with her doubles partner and sister Venus Williams, as the Williams sisters look to add to the farewell party with a doubles title as well. Next up, Kyrgios complains about marijuana smell. While Nick was great in form, defeating France's Benjamin Bonzi in 4, he had a weird complaint during the match. The outspoken superstar complained about a smell coming from the crowd and told the umpire that it was marijuana. It's a bit weird, of course, but Kyrgios actually revealed that he struggles with asthma, and considering how intense tennis can be, not being able to breathe because of marijuana is just unfair. After Kyrgios' outburst, the umpire announced that smoking isn't permitted in or around the court. That wasn't the only outburst from the Aussie though. He was handed a warning for swearing at someone on his team because he thought he wasn't supporting him enough. Finally, wins for Iga Swiatek, Jenson Brooksby, but heartbreak for Christie. World number 1, Iga Swiatek, was in top form as she downed the American star Sloane Stephens in 2 sets, losing only 5 games throughout the match. It seems that Swiatek is back in form and will be a force in this year's US Open. Meanwhile, Jenson Brooksby had the entire support of the crowd, and he used that to the maximum as he defeated Borna Coric in a thrilling contest. The 2nd set was pretty much the turning point as Coric, this year's Cincinnati winner, lost the tiebreaker 12-10. It's easily one of the biggest wins of Brooksby's career. And there was some proper heartbreak for Christie, who was serving for the match against Belinda Bencic in the 2nd set, but was broken at the crucial point. She'd go on to lose the 3rd to the Swiss, who moves into the 3rd round. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Kyrgios can get to the final of the US Open? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.